Adam Patrick. I'm the editor and lead writer for thevikingage.com. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to subscribe and like this video. And if you have already, we appreciate you for doing that. Make sure to also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. But right now, we're just going to begin the show. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Chris Schad, who writes for us here at the Viking Age, as well as Bring Me the News and Zone Coverage. But before he gets on, I wanted him to have a special intro song. So here we go.
Love it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Take it in. Take it in. Take it in. Oh, yeah.
That
He's back.
that was quite the pop last night. As somebody
Oh,
who was
yeah.
at AEW Dynamite, CM Punk returning, definitely an electric moment. Hopefully, the Vikings will have their fans reacting the same way as 10,000 people who live in their parents' basement reacted to CM Punk coming back last night. So
Hopefully.
yeah.
One can hope. At least a couple times during the year. Hopefully that we don't have that annual Christmas drag or whatever that appears to happen every season. And there'll just be crazy crowds all year long. But before we get started, I have a confession to make. I want to get something off my chest. It's Vikings related, so don't worry. Doesn't have anything to do with you. But here it goes. And I think Kirk Cousins is going to have a really good season. He's having a really good training camp. He's with a head coach that likes him. Justin Jefferson is balling out in camp. Adam Thielen's having a good camp. KJ Osborne's having a really great camp. It's all just leading me to believe that Kirk Cousins is going to have a really good season this year. And by really good season, I mean, throw over 4,500 yards and 40 touchdowns. Now, this also does not mean the Vikings are going to have a really good season. I just think Kirk Cousins is going to have himself maybe a career year in terms of statistics. I just want to get that off my chest because I've been kind of doubting him, but I've been building up confidence slowly, kind of keeping it in, and I just want to get it out and let it out and feel free. So, what are your thoughts on this?
I feel the same way. I think when you compare to what Kirk Cousins sounded like a year ago and everything that was kind of hanging over him, it's night and day. Now, Kirk was sent home today because of an undisclosed illness. I'm not going to freak out about that. And honestly, if it is COVID, better to get it now than in December. So,
Correct.
Not that I want Kirk to get COVID at all, but there's a lot of good things happening right now. He seems to have rapport with his receivers. As you mentioned, he has a head coach that actually will spend more than 45 minutes with him in a meeting. There's a lot of good things shaping up for him right now. So, yeah, I mean, Kirk has consistently put up numbers. That's what fans of his will tell you. And I think with all the weapons, with the new age offense that is coming in, I think Kirk Cousins can have a very good season. Physical ability has never been his problem. It's been the ability between the ears. So can Kevin O'Connell squeeze the best out of him? That's what it's going to come down to. So I'm encouraged so far, but I mean, we're not going to know anything until the regular season games start because he's not going to play in the preseason.
Right. Yeah. It just sounds like compared to years past, he's just had better camp as far as situational situations. That's not a phrase, but in situational drills, such as like 2-minute drills and stuff, he's just been much better as far as getting the team down the field and scoring points compared to those drills last season. So that's something I think that shows you a big difference in his performance this year compared to last year. Yes, it is camp, so things can change, and he could go revert back to old Cousins and just play scared at times. But we will see. Hopefully that's not the case. All right, on to our first topic, which has to do with the Vikings releasing their first unofficial, that's important, unofficial depth chart of 2022. Now, this is the unofficial depth chart because I believe it is posted by like the every team's PR team. So it's not even like the coaches or anything that puts this. This is just purely to put on the website to have before the preseason. So, but there are some interesting things which make you wonder, like, was it really entirely the PR team? Because there's some interesting things in there. First off would be the listing at QB2 of Kellen Mond or Sean Mannion. There's no 2, there's no 3. Both Kellen Mond and Sean Mannion are listed as the QB2s behind Kirk Cousins. Now, is this listing with the or between them, is this good or bad for Kellen Mond?
I don't think it matters, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
If the Vikings are smart, they wouldn't play Sean Mannion at all on Sunday because they know what they know what he is. He's not good enough to help you win a game as a backup. He's very smart. Kirk Cousins likes him. He's a good support animal for Kirk Cousins, I guess. Like if you want to put it in those terms, but I think they need to see what's going on with Kellen Mond, and I think on Sunday. If Mannion goes out there for more than a couple of series, I'm going to be surprised because this team probably wants Kellen Mond to win that backup job. He has more upside theoretically. He has more potential. Everything that you could say, I guess everything that you couldn't say about Sean Mannion, you can say about Kellen Mond. That being said, so far in training camp, it has not been good. He is dropping snaps. He is struggling to get to his second read. He is taking sacks during a 2-minute drill. Everything has gone poorly, and it's almost like people should have saw this during his draft analysis. Or draft evaluation, I should say. So, I mean, Kellen Mond being listed with Sean Mannion, I mean, there's a chance that the backup quarterback is not on the team right now, that they could trade for somebody. And I'm kind of skittish about that because that's kind of like the Chris Herndon emergency trade that they pulled a year ago. But I think that, Kellen Mond's going to have to show something against the Raiders or else they have to move on.
Yeah, I think I'm not too worried about if they trade for a backup because I think they would go after someone who's either got a ton of experience or someone who just has experience in the system. I don't think they're going to go after like a Cam Newton or anything like that to just ruffle the feathers just to have someone better than Kellen Mond. I kind of believe it's a good sign for Mond because I just think it's better than him being listed as third. And I think if you're him, that's better than you were a year ago. So this regime is actually like just at least giving him a shot, or at least making it look like they're giving him a shot. But I would say kind of what you were talking about, of that. However, there was a report today from ESPN's Kevin Seifert that the Vikings are very open to the thought of their backup quarterback not being on their roster right now, which is what you mentioned, which should make Kellen Mond worry. For sure, because then he would end up on like the practice squad or something, and then or even cut. So yeah, I'm not worried about Mannion. I think him being on the field on Sunday would probably be a waste of reps for pretty much everybody other than maybe the offensive line. I'm really surprised they don't have 4 quarterbacks. It's kind of surprising to me that they don't have that, but they needed help at other positions. But yeah, I don't even know. I've heard a couple names thrown out there as possible backup options. Somebody have thrown out like Gardner Minshew, Blake Bortles, like not a whole lot of guys that you would really want to either give up assets for or spend money on. So I don't know, because I think part of the reason why the Vikings haven't had a good backup situation for so many years is because Kirk Cousins has been so durable, which I think they're depending on this year. But I feel like this regime is smart enough to know, like, this is football. Anything can happen. So we got to be ready. Just a little side note. In 2019, when Kevin O'Connell was the offensive coordinator for the Washington football team, one of his quarterbacks was Case Keenum. So I just wanted to put that out there as maybe a reunion, but probably not, because the Bills are going to be like, nah, we're going to keep him.
Noted seeker Case Keenum.
Yeah, that was good. I watched the full video and it was even better. There's like a 3-minute long version video of that.
Did he? I saw the short version. Did he go up to Stephon Diggs during this bit? Because
I don't think so.
Yeah,
that would have been too easy for Diggs, I feel like.
Right. Yeah. If he would have gotten Diggs, that would have been amazing. But
the funny part was when like they showed a security guard like being like, no, you gotta get out of here. He's like, what, the 2019 pass doesn't work anymore? And he's like, no, you got to get out of here. And then they showed in the 3-minute video of like Case being like pointing to the camera and being like, hey, we're on camera. And the security guard's like, oh. So
it's like, I'm not going to get my security win for the day.
Right,
like, come on, guys.
Right. All right, moving on. Let's see the running backs. There was no surprise really for the depth chart. Wide receivers, not a whole lot of surprises, except for Albert Wilson was listed as the number 10 receiver. Does this seem odd to you at all, considering he's been in the NFL since 2014?
No, because this is what the Vikings do. I mean, it's just like this is a different regime, and they do the same things. They sign a veteran receiver just to be a camp body, and then just push the younger receivers. And right now, I mean, Albert Wilson, he knows where to line up. He knows what to do with the right things. And I mean, like you said, this is an unofficial depth chart. So I mean, this isn't indicative of how the Vikings are preparing, but if the young players on the Vikings know what they're doing and they're doing their job, there's no room for a veteran like Albert Wilson who doesn't have that same upside. Amir Smith-Marset has had a couple of hiccups during camp. You have BC Johnson returning from that knee injury. It was good insurance, and I think it was a good move to sign him. But if everybody's healthy and rolling and not making dumb mistakes on the field, there's no room for Albert Wilson. So he is listed 10th on the depth chart right now, which is kind of hilarious, but just because there's like 10 spots really, but
Dan Chisena,
the ultimate weapon, Dan Chisena, run a 4.3, but we're not really sure what he does. He's a punt gunner. That's the answer, but yeah, I mean, Kendall Wright, Jordan Taylor. I'm sure I'm forgetting some other guys that are.
Oh, I got the list for you right here. You said Kendall Wright, Jordan Taylor. These are just guys that they've signed that were either cut before the season or made the team, but didn't really have that big of a role. So you got Jordan Taylor, Kendall Wright, Michael Floyd, Tavares King, Tajay Sharp. Like one a year pretty much.
Michael Floyd was in the Minneapolis Miracle game though. Like they hung on to him.
But what do you have? Like a catch?
Target.
One target. Yeah, like
he had one target, and he wore 18. So like my went to wait a second. But obviously it was not Justin Jefferson. He was a 0-star recruit at the time of that game.
And I think if I remember, I think they signed Albert Wilson after Amir Smith-Marset suffered a little injury, and he was on like a scooter or whatever. So that was probably, like you mentioned, like little insurance to make sure that he was okay, and he seems fine now. He's in. We're going to talk about him a little bit, but he's listed as the punt returner for the Vikings. Tight ends, nothing surprising. Irv Smith's at the top. Other guys, who really cares? Offensive line, not really too many surprises at all. Although things are changing in camp as of today, with Ed Ingram's getting some first team snaps. Rookie Ed Ingram at right guard. So that's pretty intriguing. We'll see how that goes if that remains the case on Sunday. But Wyatt Davis, second-year guard out of Ohio State, two-time All-American out of Ohio State. He is listed, I think, as a third right guard. So basically like 8th or 9th on the guard depth chart. I guess it'd be 5th or 6th. But does his placement all but confirm that he is highly unlikely to make the Vikings final roster this year?
I think so. I mean, he was fighting an uphill battle to begin with, especially when the Vikings invest a second-round pick on a right guard, and now he's getting first-team snaps. This regime didn't take Wyatt Davis. That was Rick Spielman. And according to Courtney Cronin on the Purple Insider podcast earlier this offseason, Wyatt Davis was a Rick Spielman special. Yeah. All his scouts told him, don't take him. But Rick Spielman's like, I put my pants on over my shoes, so I'm going to take Wyatt Davis. Like, I just... it's frustrating. The guy was a first-round pick, or graded to be a first-round pick at Ohio State. Mm-hmm. He starts tumbling. He's in the 3rd round. I think a lot of Viking fans were excited when the Vikings were able to scoop him up, but sometimes these guys fall for reasons other than, the coach is just outthinking themselves. Like maybe it's a work ethic because he showed up out of shape. Maybe he's just not good. Maybe his knee injury that he suffered during his junior year at Ohio State really hampered him to the point where he doesn't have the drive or the anchor to stop opposing pass rushers. So there's a lot at play here. I mean, apparently he's not even getting reps. So like we can't even like sit there and be like, this is what's wrong with him. It's just he's not playing. So the coaches, I don't think like what they see in him. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be probably one of Rick Spielman's biggest draft whiffs.
Yeah, offensive linemen and quarterbacks. Rick Spielman's specialty. Wyatt Davis is going to have to hope for either a miracle or a bunch of people to get hurt because his chances of making it past final cuts this year are just very low. I think the best case scenario for him is that he ends up on the Vikings practice squad, and even that seems to be in doubt right now. It's really puzzling because, like we mentioned before, like he's a 2-time All-American at Ohio State. Like, how did he get voted as get these All-American awards over other players if he wasn't this good? But like you said, it could be injury related. That could impact the way that he's playing in the NFL right now, and he could have been a totally different player than he was in Ohio State. It could be the system that the Vikings are in. There's a lot of variables, but 2 different regimes now. Wyatt Davis not doing so hot, and yeah, it will be surprising if he makes it past final cuts, but it doesn't seem like that's going to happen.
And there's other things too. I mean, you mentioned the All-American awards. I mean, how many Heisman winners have gone on and just flamed out in the NFL? Your Johnny Manziels of the world. They light college football on fire and they're just bad when they get to the NFL. I mean, Matt Khalil, remember him? Big, rock solid franchise left tackle, supposedly going to solidify the position for 10 years. And he has 1 Pro Bowl season and then flames out of the league. Like these things happen. But for a team like the Vikings, it just always seems to happen at quarterback and offensive line. And that draws a lot of frustration from the fan base.
Which is hilarious because I think we'll talk about this too. Rick Spielman's writing stuff now for websites, and a lot of his stuff is about quarterbacks. And it's like, do you you don't have the resume really to talk about like teams' activity at quarterback, whether it's good or bad, because his track record not that good at quarterback. So this depth chart did remind me that the Vikings have 2 punters in camp this year. Totally forgot about that. Do you know the name of the Vikings' new punter?
Well, the fact you put this on the show outline makes me think it was your test to see if I actually do show prep.
I don't
it is Ryan Wright, which is very hard to say. And I know this because I feel like this is something you wanted me to do. So I actually pulled up the depth chart when I was looking this up to see who it was. But yeah, I don't know if you want punter analysis here. I got nothing for you.
Well, he's an undrafted rookie out of Tulane, and he averaged 47.5 yards per punt in his senior season last year. That's all I can tell you.
Very underrated uniforms at Tulane, though. They're one of my favorite to play in college football.
What's their nickname, too?
They're Green Wave.
Yeah, the Green Wave. That's right.
So they have like green uniforms, and they got a little bit of that light Carolina.
They have a blue one, too. Yeah, right?
Yeah, it's very sharp. They got some black ones. A lot of things mixed in there. So, and a cool nickname, really.
Is it Sean King that went to Tulane, the old Bucks quarterback? Did he go there?
Sean King, J.C. Losman, Darnell Mooney, Chicago Bears wide receiver 1, also went to Tulane.
NFL powerhouse. No, it was not a test for you. It wasn't the yellow M&Ms in the M&M jar. Wasn't that?
This is like DeMarcus Russell getting a blank DVD and told, "Hey, watch this." I don't know. I went to McDonald's. Like,
you proved yourself. You're not a bust. So
yes,
there you go. I mentioned before that, and then moving on to the defense, virtually nothing was surprising because most of that stuff seems pretty set in stone, other than maybe the starting safety next to Harrison Smith, but nobody would be surprised if it was Cam Bynum, who's listed as the safety next to Harrison Smith, and then corners were Patrick Peterson and Cameron Dantzler, and Chris Boyd was 5th or 6th. So nothing really too surprising. But at punt returner, Amir Smith-Marset is listed as the number 1 returner, and rookie Jalen Naylor is listed as his backup. So if Smith-Marset opens up the year as the 4th receiver on the Vikings depth chart, would you rather have him as the punt returner or Naylor?
I guess I kind of answered this question a little bit weird because I'm like, who has experience doing this? And Amir Smith-Marset right now did not return punts at Iowa. He did not return a punt during the regular season last year. Jalen Naylor has some experience, but he didn't return punts in his final 2 seasons at Michigan State, where he averaged 9 yards per return in 2020, which is a COVID year. You kind of throw that out. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do because the bar is very low at punt returner. It's basically just don't screw it up. We haven't seen anybody have success in this position since fellow John Marshall Rocket Marcus Sherrills took a hold of the position. And I mean, you got KJ Osborne. He tried to do the Allen Iverson crossover when he tried to do it. So I think they gave him a look, seeing like, hey, can you do it yet? No, you can't. So and plus, I don't think you would want KJ Osborne returning punts when he's the wide receiver 3 and you're going to be running a lot of 3 receiver sets, I assume. So I don't know. I've gotten to the point of, yeah, it's important. I don't care who it is as long as they don't mess up. And that's what they should do. They shouldn't be looking for like this Devin Hester, Cordero Patterson type mold, because even though it would be nice to have one of those guys, they don't grow on trees. It's hard to find one of those guys. So find somebody that can field the punt, bring it up a couple of yards, and not fumble, botch, muff, whatever word you want to use to screw up. And they'll be fine. So yeah, I mean, flip a coin, really.
Way back in the day, Patrick Peterson was ridiculous as a punt returner.
He was awesome
now, but yeah. I think he had 4 punt return touchdowns as a rookie. But yeah, little past his prime to do that. I think he talked about that. Like, yeah, I'm too old to do that now. But with the offensive scheme that the Vikings are running and how it's going to be likely more passing oriented, I think it's more important to keep someone like Amir Smith-Marset healthy, because the second Thielen, Jefferson, or Osborne goes down, he's the 3rd receiver. So I think I'd rather see Naylor be given the punt return duties just because of that. But at the same time, Naylor being a rookie also concerns me as well, and him not having a whole lot of punt return experience. But isn't there an undrafted receiver who was a punt returner? What did he play? Like Appalachian State? Do you know
Thomas Hennigan?
Yeah. But he runs like a 4.9. So he's not going to speed by you. He might make you miss, but he's the one who has the most, I think, punt return experience on this team. So I think he might be someone maybe to watch in the preseason. And again,
if he doesn't screw up, I don't care what he runs.
Right. Fair catch every time. I don't care.
Fine. Yeah. Works for me.
So yeah, I'm interested to see how that plays out during the preseason, because I think that'll play a big role in it, because teams punt a lot in the preseason because they don't score a lot. So I believe the Vikings over-under for Sunday is 34 points. So yeah, super high. All right, moving on to the next topic, which is Mike Zimmer has a new job. Mike Zimmer has apparently joined the 33rdteam.com as a staff member. He will be reportedly, according to Phil Mackey of Score North, he will reportedly be contributing to the site with written content and video content. So technically, Mike Zimmer is a member of his beloved media now. So it's interesting how maybe he'll call Chris Thomason for some tips or whatever. The 33rd Team is a website that was founded by former NFL executives Joe Banner and Mike Tannenbaum. I think it aims to just provide a more exclusive insider view of things around the league, because Zimmer's joining other former NFL players, coaches, and executives, including Bill Parcells, Michael Vick, Rich Gannon, Marvin Lewis, Bill Cowher, and Brett Favre. Oh, yeah, and some guy named Rick Spielman is also a staff member of the 33rdteam.com. So Zimmer and Spielman are co-workers again. I just can't separate for too long. But do we think Mike Zimmer is going to be good at something like this?
Now, you forgot in your list, our friend of the show, Tyler Fornes, also writes for
yeah.
the team. Just want to give him a shout out quick.
Yes,
but
yes.
this is not the type of job I envisioned Mike Zimmer having at the beginning of the 2022 season. Just seeing him in front of a typewriter, I don't think, or
typewriter.
No.
No.
Probably is a typewriter. I'm not wrong. Just hacking. Like, you think he's like a chicken pecker, like, where it's just like.
He totally does this.
Yeah. Just does the one finger thing. He doesn't do the, thing we learned in.
He's got the glasses on like the edge of his nose. That's how he looks at his phone, probably. Like.
Yeah. I'm sure that's kind of how it is, but it sounds like this job. They go into Zoom calls and they talk to a writer. So maybe he'll be talking to our friend Tyler and being like, this is what I know about defense. Tyler's like, I got you. And then spruce it up. And then Mike looks like a genius. The guy knows football. And I think that's what they want to assemble at 33rd team. They want to get guys that have been in the league a long time. They know what it's like to be successful. And despite all the bashing and all the culture shredding that the Vikings have done, Mike Zimmer was a very good coach, both as a defensive coordinator and as a head coach, particularly in the first 4 seasons he was in Minnesota. Wink, wink. I'm interested to see what he writes. And I mean, it is funny to see Rick Spielman writing about quarterbacks, but I mean, getting that kind of insight from a general manager or a defensive coach, like I would like to read about Mike Zimmer and his thoughts on defense and everything else. And I think it's a good hire. So,
yeah, I've looked at some of their content on their site. It feels a little dry right now, a little, who cares? Because it's a lot of general stuff. I think they should maybe play to their strengths and maybe look back at some of like the most significant events that some of these people have been a part of and kind of talk about those, because I don't think a whole lot of people care like about the people aren't going to the 33rd team to find out like, what a 4-3 defense is. I don't think
intricacies of a double A gap board.
Yeah. That's not gonna, it might be something that they like to talk about, but I don't know if it's going to interest a whole lot of people. So if they want to stick around, I feel like they're going to have to make use of all the personalities that they have, which they can. It's not going to be very hard, because if you like have Zimmer and Spielman on the same call, that would be amazing. But I think he'd be good at it for sure. He's like, no one's ever questioned Mike Zimmer's knowledge of football. Sometimes it didn't always translate to being successful on the field, but no one has ever questioned Mike Zimmer's knowledge of defense or defensive backs. So he had a weekly show, I think, on the Vikings website or whatever, where he went over some plays and game strategy at times. So I'm assuming this might be something similar. But no, I think he can be good at it. Yeah, I don't expect him to be the next Peter King or anything, but he'll be good at it. What are some of the things you would like to hear Zimmer talk about?
Oh boy. His relationship with Kirk Cousins would be fun, wouldn't it?
Oh boy. Yeah.
Although we've talked about this, I don't think he has anything to gain, because I think he wants to be a head coach in the NFL again someday. So, I mean, if he goes out and he rips everybody in the Vikings organization, everybody's going to read that and be like, man, this dude's unhinged. But
you think he wants to be a head coach or just a coordinator?
I think he'd like to be a head coach again. Yeah. Why wouldn't you? If somebody came up to him and been like, hey, I'm trying to think. So, like, let's say the Bears, like Eberflus goes 0-17, and Ryan Poles is like, all right, we got to change it up. You don't think he's going to try and call Mike Zimmer and be like, hey, you want to coach the Bears? You want to coach against Kirk Cousins twice a year and just, troll him? Like,
did Mike Zimmer didn't he interview with like the Jaguars or something? Was it?
I don't even think he interviewed. Rick Spielman nearly had a job with the Jaguars. That's what you're thinking about.
There was a rumor or something that he was talking with them. Yeah. Like, is this going to be the place where he spills the beans about everything that went on the last few weeks of last season? Probably not. No. I don't think that's what they want to do. But I would like to hear maybe some of the things that he went through, maybe describe the Minneapolis Miracle from his point of view, like go into that, or describe maybe a more detailed version of the day that Teddy Bridgewater went down, because there's still like we don't know a whole lot about that. Maybe talk about when Adrian Peterson was suspended for like the entire year in his first season as the Vikings head coach, when he was just like immediately thrown into the fire of, hey, this is the Vikings. This is what happens to us every year.
It's
So
Not My Fault by Mike Zimmer.
right. Forward by Gene Snitsky.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of things he can explore. Hopefully, it's not just like I said, the general. It's a 4-3 defense, A gap blitz. This is how corners should play, and safety should know how to play both positions. So hopefully, it's more than that. But you said that you think he still wants to be a head coach. Do you think like him doing this is indication that he does want to continue coaching the NFL, or maybe he wants to hang low and just do something like this?
Well, remember last March, Doug Peterson wrote an article for the 33rd team where he talked about how to construct a quarterback room. And the next thing you know, he was hired by the Jacksonville Jaguars. So if Mike Zimmer can kind of maybe soften his image a little bit, show that he's still, because like what do people say when they talk about Mike Zimmer? He lost his fastball, right?
Yeah.
People think that he forgot how to coach defense. If he can show the knowledge is still up there, like teams are going to wind up hiring him. So I think this is a good way for Zimmer to get back into the public eye. It's a low stress situation, I assume, where, he's just going to watch football, recharge the batteries. And what is he, 66 years old? Maybe, another year off. He comes back as the head coach of the Bears or the Jets, or maybe a defensive coordinator for Sean Payton in Dallas, or wherever he winds up. Like, I think this is a very smart business move for Zimmer.
Like, I'm trying to think where he could land. Are the Texans in there? Maybe
Texans, but they want to hire Josh McCown.
I know they do.
Like they want to hire him bad, and like they were going to do it, and then like nobody hired minority candidates. So like, guess we can't do that. Lovie Smith, yes, Lovie. Yeah. See, we hired one, but
yeah, there isn't, like, I feel like he's just gonna go wherever Sean Payton goes. Either that, or if the Bengals defensive coordinator, if he gets a head coaching job, I can see him going back to Cincinnati. Yeah, so I'm interesting. I'm interested to see how Mike Zimmer, what he does with this opportunity that he has. Maybe he'll just do one article and be like, "This is stupid. I'm done." So we'll see. All right, this Sunday we've got Vikings football for the first time since January. Now it's a preseason game, so everyone will enjoy the first 5 minutes and then be like, "All right, when's the regular season?" Because this is freaking boring. On Sunday, the Vikings are taking on the Raiders at 3:25 Central Time in Las Vegas. The game will be broadcast locally on Fox 9 and nationally on NFL Network, so a lot of people can watch from home. According to WinBet, the Raiders are favored by 3.5 points, and the over-under is set at 34 points for all of you crazy people who bet on preseason football. I wouldn't even touch that. But I did hear today that more people bet on preseason football than they do on regular season baseball games. So that's,
make it spicy, man. If you're bored to tears, like put some skin in the game. Why not?
That is. I feel like that's just burning your. There is no way you can know anything. Like, that is just throwing your money.
People play roulette, don't they?
Yeah, I guess so.
What slot is this ping pong ball going to go in? Let's throw $100,000.
Although the Ravens have like a 20-game win streak in the preseason. It's something.
Hang the banner.
Ridiculous like that.
They actually have banners in Baltimore for championships.
Yeah, they have a Super Bowl.
That might be a little redundant, but
looking at the offensive side of the ball, who are some of the players that you'll be keeping an eye on Sunday when it comes to the Vikings?
Well, we already talked about Kellen Mond. I want to see, is this as bad as people are making it out to be? And like I said, I think he should play at least 3 quarters. I mean, if you're going to run out Sean Mannion for one, fine. But I mean, if I was Kevin O'Connell, I'd play him the entire game. Just like, here's your chance, kid. If you can field snaps, if you can make reads and everything else, like everything will be good. If you look like a disaster, and also too, I mean, if Kellen Mond has been this bad, I think Kevin O'Connell, I nearly called him Sean McVay again, but Kevin O'Connell wants to see his team function. And I mean, if Kellen Mond is, peeing down his leg, so to speak, like nobody's going to look good. So it'll be really interesting. Of course, Garrett Bradbury as well as another offensive player I'm looking at. If he does not play, this is not a real competition. Right. So if he is out on the field, then my eyes will kind of get a little wide and we'll see what's going on there.
No,
Jalen Naylor, obviously. What's that?
He needs to play.
Yeah, he absolutely needs to play. Jalen Naylor, we talked about him a little bit. The tight ends, Johnny Munt and
Zach Davidson.
It's a bad sign when you can't even remember their names. But yeah, I think that's the list in my eyes. How about you?
Yeah, you nailed some of the guys that I had too. Naylor, Mond, and Davidson. I'm curious about Chris Reed because we've heard mixed reports about him in training camp at center. And it's not going to take much for him to overtake Garrett Bradbury, I feel like. So I'm curious to see how he does as far as, snaps and whose fault that is and whose isn't. I'm curious about Ty Chandler, the rookie running back that they drafted this year, see what he can do with the ball in his hands and like the open field. And Ed Ingram, who's getting first team reps. Maybe Ed Ingram doesn't even play on Sunday now that he's getting first team reps. I doubt that'll be the case, but yeah. And then with Kellen Mond and Sean Mannion, I feel like they'll either one will play the first half and one will play the second half, or they'll alternate and do like one plays the first quarter, one plays the second quarter, one plays the third quarter, one plays the fourth quarter. Because I don't think Kirk Cousins is going to play, and they only have two quarterbacks. So another reason why I'm surprised maybe they'll sign someone before Sunday, because if Kirk Cousins is ill still, they're going to need to, because if Mannion or Mond goes down on Sunday, they don't have a backup. So
Punter chucking it around on Sunday. Just
that could be
out.
Who would be? Yeah, I don't even want to think about it. Defensive side of the ball. Who are some of the guys you'll be watching?
Andrew Booth Jr. and the rest of the secondary. I don't think we'll see Patrick Peterson. I don't think we'll see Cameron Dantzler, to be honest with you. So Andrew Booth Jr. has been one of those players that has popped during training camp. I'm not sure how much Lewis Seen is going to play. I don't think we'll see Cameron Bynum. But I mean, the back end of the depth chart, like a Caleb Evans, is he good? Has Chris Boyd improved at all?
No. Nope.
Probably not. But I mean,
he had that really good pass.
These things.
He had that really good pass breakup in the night practice. And we had that one play where he thought he won the Super Bowl.
He probably made a joke too, and everybody's like, "Man, he's funny."
But like, he's been having a terrible camp, and I saw the Vikings posted that, and he just was freaking out about it because he thought he did so well. It's like, you made one play, man, in training camp. Chill out. Yeah. Then Brian Asamoah, I'm curious about, because we've been hearing a bunch of things about him, getting some interesting some reps in training camp. Patrick Jones II. He's someone we really didn't see a whole lot of last year, and it sounds like the Vikings really like him this year as like a backup pass rusher. And Jalen Twyman in the middle there seems to be a very interesting player who's on the bubble, it feels like, at this point. He didn't play last year. He's got shot. And he's back this year. And he's a big, like, his arms, they're not small. So maybe he can make a difference there in the middle. I think this might be like his first game since 2019. Pitt. So it's been a while.
Yeah, out in 2020.
Yeah. So the Vikings offense and defense will both have new schemes in this game. New head coach, makes sense. Which will we learn more about on Sunday, do you think? The offense or the defense?
I think we'll see little things. I don't think we're going to see a full-blown like reveal. Right. But I mean, we'll see a couple of little things. Maybe they run a couple of things. I mean, preseason football is really vanilla. You said it yourself. Nobody's going to open their bag of tricks until the games start counting in week one. I kind of want to see where some players line up. Like, even if they do keep it vanilla, there are going to be things that they do differently compared to, I mean, illusion of complexity, right? The premise of this is that they can run the same play or have things look as the same play,
Mm-hmm.
but run like 30, 40 different plays out of that look.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it might just be a really simple look and they just dumb it down. And then once the regular season happens, it's like, oh my God, they ran that play out of this. Like, that's when the big reveal is going to happen. So, yeah, I don't think we'll see anything major, but we'll see hints here or there.
Yeah, I don't expect the offense to show much of anything at all. We've heard Kevin O'Connell's pretty skeptical. Everyone saw that message on the video board before their training camp practice where, they didn't want the fans to help their opponents by recording videos. So he's already pretty skeptical of giving away his secrets. So I don't really expect a whole lot to be shown with the offense. But I do think we'll see a little bit more with the defense because they're switching to a 3-4 base. So that'll be something different that we really haven't seen in 40 years. So yeah. So I think that'll be the most interesting thing to see. Just kind of how it functions, what they want to do, not necessarily exactly plays that they're going to run on defense, but just how this defense functions compared to defenses that we've seen in years past. And now, finally, I have to bring this up because the Vikings are playing in Las Vegas on Sunday. Las Vegas, not known for being a town where everyone goes to build churches or whatever.
Lots of chapels, though.
There are lots. Yeah, you're right. You know what? You're right. Got me there. Are you concerned at all about any of the Vikings players possibly getting into trouble in Vegas?
I'm not sure they'll have time to do it.
Right.
Like when you think about it. So like I was trying to think of previous instances where players have gotten in trouble in Vegas. Like Alvin Kamara is the big one because we're waiting on a suspension from him, but the NFL likes to take
during the Pro Bowl.
What's that?
Was that during the Pro Bowl, right?
Yeah, I was getting to that. Like that was during the Pro Bowl where they have a lot of downtime. It's technically off season. Everything else, Henry Ruggs was on an off day where, jumps into a car, gets a Dewey. I think, what was it? Damon Arnett. That was another guy who got into trouble in Vegas, although I think that was more social media based than anything else. Like, I think that the Vikings are going to fly in, they're going to check in their hotel, they're going to be ready to go. And then, I mean, it's not like, not to single out Adam Thielen or something. It's not like Adam Thielen's going to like land and be like, all right, I'm not playing tomorrow. Might as well go hit up Vegas and, go get a couple buckets at the
sports. He does like the golf.
Put down some money, but.
Maybe he'll hit up a Top Golf or something. While he's out there.
Yeah, 100%. We don't want Adam Thielen betting because the NFL frowns upon that.
Well, you might get a year suspension if you make. If you pull the slot machine one time, accidentally.
Dr. Goodell, what are you doing here?
Yeah. I'm not too worried either. I just want to throw that out there to see if you had any concerns. Just because it's Vegas, but people should be concerned about any city. I would feel like, I think a lot of stuff happens like during the bye week, right?
Yeah,
when guys get in trouble. I think that's when Jaron Kearse got in trouble. It was during the bye week.
Yeah, and there's no structure.
Right.
So I mean, there's going to be structure in this trip. So
yeah, and this is the preseason. A lot of guys, their jobs on the line. Like they're trying to make the team, so they're not like going out and celebrating, or they shouldn't be that they've done anything because they haven't yet. So, and it feels like a lot of the guys that the Vikings have on their team, they're not really like, no one's like a party guy. I mean, I could be wrong, but it feels like a lot of them would rather stay home and play video games. So maybe that'll help them out. But I don't know the personality of these guys really well, so it could be different. But I feel like
I don't know about you, but I've had this like thought in my head, like if Kirk Cousins were to get arrested, like what would it like? I swear it'd be like somebody like shorted him a cheeseburger in the drive-thru or something. Like just something, or like it would be very Curb Your Enthusiasm, like where like he means to do one thing, but it winds up just severely offending somebody, and just like, no, that's not what I meant to do. No. But
I was thinking it would be something way, way worse. So I'm glad you didn't let me speak. Because I was getting a little dark in my head. That's all we need to talk about. Okay. Sunday. So the Vikings play in Vegas, 3:25 Central, 1:25 for me because I'm on the West Coast. On Fox 9 and NFL Network. And
West Coast time is just prime for sports viewing, by the way.
Yeah.
Always nice. You got games starting at 4. You can watch all the games.
Monday Night Football is over at 8:30.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really good. Except for when teams go to London. Then it sucks because the game starts at 6:30. So I usually wind up taking a nap at halftime during those games. But yeah, we'll be back on Monday. I'm sure we'll be talking about what happened in the game. Hopefully, everything goes well. Nothing goes terribly bad. But yeah, we'll be back to talk about that. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and like this video. The audio version of this podcast will also be available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the iHeart Radio app, and whatever podcast app that you pretty much use. We're on there. So go check that out. Make sure you like the Viking 8 on Twitter and Facebook. And until next time, Chris and I will talk to you later.